Hi, I'm Carrie Chrisman, and I'm here with Senator Taylor and Senator Hancock. They're joining us today to speak to the Williamson County Republican women. I'm your legislative liaison, and we wanted to briefly talk to them about our topic today for your luncheon, faith and morality in politics. Senator Hancock, you and Senator Taylor both were elected recently during the 2012 election cycle. You're both serving your first term in the Texas Senate as freshmen, but you are not new to the process. You both served in the House together, and Senator Taylor, you were elected in 2002, and Senator Hancock, you were elected in 2006. And I wanted to see if each of you would briefly tell me about your district and who you represent.
Seniority always goes first.
Well, I represent the southeast part of Harris County, almost all of Galveston County. I actually live in Friendswood, and I also have the northern part of Brazoria County.
Roughly how many people do you represent?
850,000 people.
So nearly 1 million people. And in the House, you represented
Ended up somewhere around 170,000 at the end. We started off about 140,000 in our district's group. I think yours grew.
So significantly more, actually now more than a congressional district, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So Senator Hancock, who do you represent?
We have about 80% of the district's Tarrant County, and it's the suburban areas in Tarrant County, and then about 20% is Dallas County, which is the South Irving and Grand Prairie areas, mostly suburban areas, and my House district was really rooftops and churches, and the Senate district is very similar.
Well, good. So fairly, you're right, Senator Hancock, you're right outside of Dallas, and then Senator Taylor, you're right outside of Houston, and so both have suburban areas, very similar, but maybe different sides of the state.
Yeah, I've got a lot more industrial than I used to. I used to have the same
That's
type
true.
of rooftops, and now I've got the industrial complex along part of the ship channel, and then Texas City and all that.
Yeah. We pick up Cowboy Stadium, the ballpark in Arlington, and then the General Motors plant. So in a Senate district, you're going to grab
Absolutely.
a little bit of everything.
A lot more diversity in the Senate district.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I wanted to talk about your faith. You are both men of faith. You have indicated that publicly. That's well known, and I know that your faith is very important to you and your family. And I wanted to just get your feedback on how that impacts your service in the public eye, and then also just as it affects your legislation and what it means to you as a public servant.
And I would just say, as a Christian, it impacts all of your life. And obviously, when you're going through times of testing, it obviously improves your prayer life. And certainly during the legislative session, we have a lot of opportunities to be tested and looking for guidance and wisdom and discernment. So the prayer life is much improved during session because you really, you can't do it on your own. And we can do all things through Him who strengthens us, and that's kind of what we depend on during session. And of course, it also is the basis of most of the decisions we have. A lot of these decisions we make aren't spiritual. It's this business decision, whatever, but a lot of it really gets down to what are your bedrock foundational principles, and obviously we start from there on everything that we work on.
Thank you.
Well, I think, as Senator Taylor said, Larry pointed out, it is the foundation of really who you are, and it does give you a good perspective and gives you of your role here. That number one, you realize that we are not God, but there is a God, and that we are created, but we are prone to fail and failure, and so you don't walk into this environment thinking that you have all the answers, but you do realize that as man we are sinful, and therefore there's a role for government to address the laws to really protect us from ourselves, and so the role and from a biblical standpoint, you go back and see that the law was there to draw us to God and to bring us to a point of Christ. He had the Old Testament that led us to the New Testament, and that there is a purpose and intentional, and no matter how libertarian you may be bent, scripturally you recognize that there is a role and there's an obligation for government and a legal standing, all of which in the perspective that that I've kind of walked into my legislative process is really the desire there that in all things we glorify God and we lead others to Him.
Well, thank you. I appreciate y'all being so open and taking the time to talk about this with the Williamson County Republican Women. It means a lot, and I know that it's going to add to today's topic. And I appreciate y'all's faith. I appreciate what it does and how it impacts the legislation that you file. And then also just as you handle how you handle yourself from day to day. I think both of you serve as a role model, and I know people look to you for guidance. And I know that y'all will have a long road ahead of you leading the rest of the Texas Senate as well. But I appreciate your service, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. We appreciate
Thank you.
what your group does as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.